LootBet, online esports betting. Dota, CSGO, Overwatch, Hearthstone, and many more. Bet on tournament matches or in-game events while viewing them live. Deposit using money, bitcoins, or even skins. Join LootBet now. Use the code you see here when you deposit and grab your bonus.
Don't know how to build a team from scratch or find good teammates? DreamTeam.gg, the ultimate team building platform. Find and connect with new players, coaches and teams. Manage and monetize your team. Get on fast track to advance from novice to amateur and, if desired, to professional.
Окей, Steadicam 5, вы меня слышите? Дайте как-то понять, пожалуйста. Steadicam и 5 камера, слышите меня? Так, Steadicam, я вижу, 5 камера. Откликнитесь по возможности.
Welcome here to the StarSeries Finals Season 4 I-League. Obviously, we are going to be kicking off with the first game of the day. Vendetta is SK versus MVP PK, so quite an underdog matchup, I think we can say.
Yeah, you've got reigning or former major champions 2 times at that versus a team who's never qualified for an actual major. So yeah, a bit of a discrepancy in terms of what they've accomplished, obviously. But we've seen Asian teams coming into tournaments and actually being able to topple some of the big dogs. You know, Tyloo comes to mind versus actually SK as well. So, you know, even though on paper it is a fair mismatch, I think there's still, you know, a good reason to keep an eye on the South Koreans and see what they've been cooking on, because they have kind of been in the shadows, I guess, compared to SK.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I think that's one of the things, as you say, you know, with Asian teams being prominent to upset, coming into events like this, you know, no one's going to be prepping for the Asian teams. No one's going to be prepping for Tyloo or MVP, especially not the likes of SK, who are coming into this as, you know, expected victors of the whole event to some. Yeah. So I think there'll be a bit of an underdog upset chance for MVP. And of course, this is a best of 3 Swiss format in the group stages. So there's not a lot of room for upset like best of 1s at least, but there's always a chance for MVP to take him up.
Always a chance, and if there's an upset, you know it's legitimate, so that's really cool about the entire format as well. And here we go, on your screens you can see the teams attending right now. Obviously haven't played a game yet, so all teams at a big fat 0. That's about to change as we get going, but obviously just from start to finish, top tier teams from top to bottom.
Yeah, what are your expectations coming into this event, at least from some of these underdogs, some of the Asian teams, some of the, I mean, teams that people aren't really sure what we're going to see. You know, you've got Na'Vi, who have been incredibly inconsistent recently, especially, I mean, we looked to Pro League, we looked to the Major, where they obviously got to the semi-finals, but then you could argue, oh, you know, they beat QB in the quarters. How impressive is that really? And all these question marks. You know, what are the big storylines we're going to be looking at over the next few weeks?
There's a ton of them, obviously, because quite a few of these rosters have gone through changes as well in the off-season and so on, right after the major. And as you mentioned, the 2 Asian teams we have here in MVP and Tyloo have kind of just been away from everyone else. They can come in with something completely cooked up. They've known their matchup for a bit. They could have you know, planned something in particular for their first round matchup and so on. And then you have Virtus Pro. Obviously have a tendency to show up every now and again. When they show up, they're amazing. But now it's not, you know, the good old lineup that we know and love. Taz obviously being replaced by Miku. And that's going to be a bit interesting to see how it pans out as well. And you can see the schedule for today here as well. SK Gaming, MVP, PK being the ones to start us off. And we already touched a little bit on that. And then followed up by FaZe Clan versus Tyloo. So both Asian teams not exactly getting the easiest start to the tournament in terms of opponents.
Bottom seed versus top seed, it seems, and that really is not fun at all. But hey, I mean, let's look back to last year and the rise of Asian CS in the sense that we look to events like DreamHack Masters, where we've seen Tyloo get upset wins before versus the likes of Na'Vi when they were in their prime. I mean, you know, SK obviously, even other teams, other underdogs coming to an event like Cologne 2017, where Space Soldiers were able to take cash away from SK in the group stage.
Exactly.
You know, these teams aren't unbeatable. Although, again, coming back to the point, this is best of 3, so it's going to be pretty difficult. What would you say for this matchup, at least, are the keys to success? You know, what can MVP do to take down SK, the Giants?
Well, first off, they have an immense amount of information they can go off of because SK is literally at every tournament ever, all of their official games online as well. You know, there's a ton of things you can actually draw out from their play, and also the fact that they obviously play the major with Phelps instead of Bolts, that allows them to not necessarily have a copious amount of time to actually restructure how they played once they get back into the real with Bolts. We saw that they weren't necessarily at their top level at the Summit, for instance. Ended up losing to Cloud9 there once more. And, there's definitely going to be things they haven't been able to change up in the period leading up to this tournament. So, that's obviously something for MVP to look into and definitely could potentially take advantage of. But the real problem comes into play when you know that they have a guy like Fallen who's extremely good at adapting, on the fly and actually being able to recognize what your opponent is doing. And if SK notice that they're being anti-stratted, they have about 15 different pages in that playbook that they can fall back on. And then the real question becomes whether or not MVP have something to answer at that point. So they can get off to a good start and then just have it all crumble.
I feel like one of the big things as well for this matchup is not even just the tactical side, where obviously we could have anti-stratting, we could have MVP preparing for SK, but also just on an individual level. Do you think the likes of these Koreans really match up to the Giants of SK, or is this just going to be a huge mismatch?
There will have to be a fair bit of delirium for that to happen. But here's Paula with an interview of the manager of MVP.
How's it going?
Hello.
Good to see you, and it's a pleasure to have your team here. Tell us a bit about your team.
We practice very much, so we
Старикам, если вы на месте, будем начинать представление с командой
so
китайцев.
we will study many
MVP,
things
которая сидит дальше.
What is the
которая здесь.
competition like that your team gets to play against back home in Korea?
Anything?
So the other teams in Korea that you guys practice against or compete against, what are they like?
Sometimes practice each other, but we are just many analyze the strategy, and so we self check strategy and practice more.
Fantastic. And then final question, what would you like to see from East Asian Counter-Strike and Southeast Asian, South Asian? Do you think the scene can grow and
Старикам, что такое?
grow even
Всё нормально?
larger in the regions that you're from?
Southeast
Пятая камера, мы на месте?
area is very rapidly grow
Ох,
up.
супер.
They
Да, берем
perform
общий
very
план над
good.
ними,
Even if
так,
in
чтобы было
Korea,
видно
we are
рекламу
number one
снизу.
of Korea, but we expect South
Вот,
Asia
да, можем
region
чуть-чуть
is more
левее
grow
по
up
лучу
in
немного
reach that
прилететь.
likes Europe.
Если
There
можем,
we go.
конечно,
So
чуть-чуть левее, да.
MVP are here to try and do their best to learn and
И Наташа
experience
не
and
знакома так
grow
далее.
their scene to the same levels that we're seeing in Europe
Всё,
and
спасибо.
America. Thank you so much for being here and talking, and best of luck in your match.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Parla, for that interview. And I feel like that's a good way to put it at the end. They're here to learn and experience. That's going to be the takeaway point for MVP. We're not expecting them to come in and go crazy and get to the playoffs. If they did, that would be incredible. But at the end of the day, no matter the result, they can go home happy that they tried their best. They prepared. They at least maybe got some maps away from some good teams.
Exactly. And just making their way to a tournament like this is obviously not just a given either. And here we see the lineup: HSK, Sign, Solo, Glow, and Zeph. And, you spoke of experience, and the three latter players here on your screen, Solo, Glow, and Zeph, they probably have more experience, in their bag than a lot of the CSGO players who have been playing professionally for quite some time do, because obviously this is part of the core that played for Istro, Project KR, and these pretty much like the prime South Korean teams back in 1.6 who actually got to that level that we're kind of hoping to see happen once more in CSGO. But these guys were definitely able to contend with the best players in the world, and at certain points of time they were a top 5, even top 3 team when they competed. So it's really cool to see that they're still keeping at it. Obviously they had a bit of a later start into CSGO, and they've actually gotten a significant boost with Sign and HSK, who played for the primary MVP team basically from the inception of the CSGO era there in South Korea. Ever since they came into the lineup, we've seen a significant boost in terms of performance. They're more reliably beating the other Chinese teams like Vici and Flash and so on. And they're also being able to have closer game versus the likes of Tyloo, grabbing maps off of them and so on. So there are positive signs here. Obviously, SK is a bit of a different animal. But I think, again, it comes back to what was said in the interview. This is a learning experience. You don't become the best in the world overnight. And I think they're very aware of that, and especially the guys who obviously have been through this for years on end already, like Seth. They know it's a long haul. It's a marathon.
Definitely. Who would you say, at least on this roster now, going through the players who we are expecting to step up, to show up in a big way, maybe have some good performance against SK here in the first match?
Obviously, like the kid in me, who's been following these players for so long, would love to see Solo, who was on your screen right there, obviously return to old glory and possibly be a top 5 player in the world. That would have been absolutely wonderful. But if you want to stay realistic with it, I think it's on Sign. On the MVP side to really dish out the most damage. He's been by far their top performer. As you can see, his ratings are quite a bit above the rest of his teammates. And he seems to do it at a consistent basis as well. Obviously, we have seen players from the Asian region have very consistent results in within their own region, and then kind of fall flat once they go up against higher opponents or high-level teams. But it's going to be cool to see whether or not he's able to kind of adapt to the level that they're going to go up against, and not necessarily be like we saw Fancy, for instance, on that Vici or former Tailu team, because he was like one of the guys who just dominated everyone in any qualifier, any league they had over in either China or the Asian region, and then was a bit of a shell of himself, and instead it was other guys like Attacker, DD, or somebody who would pick up the mantle when they played international teams, and that even then, they were able to grab maps, as you said, and even series versus really good teams. But yeah, for MVP to find reasonable success here versus SK, I think a lot of it is going to come down to Sign. And then obviously HSK has a bit of a nightmare matchup up against him. He's going to have to go toe-to-toe with the Ops of Fallen. And
good luck.
Never an easy task, but that's again, learning experience. I think if anything, he would have had a lot of time to prepare. Actually, we saw what Mo did, for instance, when Gambit managed to take it all the way to the major in Krakow. He specifically looked at how Fallen played Overpass and basically went into that game just reading Fallen like a book. And obviously, if HSAs could have something like that, then that would be amazing. But here's a couple of words with
Fallen Toledo. Good to see you, bro.
Hello, guys. Good to see you, Paul. It's been a while.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was, of course, I saw you when you were on holiday in Mexico.
That's true. That's true. I was supposed to be playing there, but we failed.
Yeah, well, nonetheless, you didn't fail too bad, maybe in your own eyes, but at the recent major, you had a decent showing, and at CS Summit, you did okay. Give me a quick recap on those two events.
The major was very challenging for us to play with Phelps again. I think we did a good job. We managed to enter the semifinals, so I think it was a good showing. And of course, we want to do better, but we faced the winners. Cloud9 did a good job. And on Summit, again, we just couldn't find our game yet, so we're still trying to get in shape, the same shape we were last year.
Yeah, and so after those two events, getting into practice and then coming here, do you feel like you're getting some of that shape back now that you're able to utilize bolts?
I think this is going to be a great tournament for us because of the format. There's a lot of matches to be played, and we definitely need a little bit more of it. We need to play a little bit more of matches so we can get back to the level we're used to play. So it's been a harsh first start of the year, and we want to use this tournament to get back to our level.
Yeah, has the practice been very intense, reintegrating bots, or maybe just getting him properly involved in the team? How's that been?
It's been awesome. We love playing with bots, so we're having fun, but as I said, the last couple of weeks were not that good to us. We lost, I think, 4 matches in a row for American teams that didn't happen too often. So, of course, there are a little bit of doubt in our minds, but as I said, this is a big test for us, a big tournament. The format's going to help us because we can play a lot of matches, and I just hope that we can keep rolling and get back to our level as soon as possible.
Last couple of points, we have to touch upon the match you're about to play against MVP Carnal from Korea. Interesting opponent. Do you have any particular sort of thoughts on them?
Being honest, I know some of their players from back in the days in Counter-Strike 1.6. Solo, for example, I was a big fan of the guy. There was some nuke plays that those guys came up with, like some after plans on the A side, where they would just plant the bomb and play for to kill the guys through the wall instead of fighting them, like doing an all bank. So that was pretty nice, and I remember that place back on the time. So it's gonna be an honor to play against them, to see those faces again. And we never underestimate anything. This is how we started in the past. We know that people are hungry to show they're good, and we should never underestimate anything, and we won't do that today.
Yeah, because I mean, if you compare it in a sense to a team from a similar region, Tyloo, when you played them at DreamHack Masters Malmo 2016, it didn't go in your favour. Are you looking to avoid those sort of mistakes? I don't know if you were underestimating them or what the mistakes were, but are you looking? Do you learn from an experience like that to come into a similar situation here?
Yeah, I think that that matchup against Tyloo back in the days showed us that everything can happen. And we had just won a major, and we were trying to introduce a new map to our map pool, and it went pretty wrong, the worst way possible, because we actually went out of the group stage. So, of course, we learned a lot from that mistake, and we hope that we play to our level and don't let this happen ever again.
All right, final thoughts, Gabriel. There are some teams here that are definitely looking to come up against you. FaZe, for instance, definitely want to try and have that matchup with you, and other teams looking to take you out as well, maybe Cloud9. Who are you looking out for in terms of the toughest competition here, and where are you looking to place at StarSeries I-League Season 4?
I don't have any particular matchup that I want to be playing. I think everything is going to be a challenge. As I said, we don't think that we're playing to the best level right now, so everything is going to be challenging. And of course, there are always the biggest rivalries. Playing FaZe, playing Cloud9 lately has been very challenging as well. So all those teams, we're looking forward to play them, and this farmer is going to be awesome. It's always best of 3, so there's no excuse this time.
All right, there we go. No excuses from Gabriel Fallen Toledo. You better get ready, bro. MVP Carnal.
Bye-bye, guys.
No excuses from Fallen, but again, like we've been saying on the desk here, this is a team that they're top of the world, but they definitely have received their fair amount of upsets from Asian teams.
Yeah, they have a bit of a trend for it, and I think Fallen is actually very, very honest in the fact that they won't underestimate MVP PK. We see that even when SK play online games, such as Pro League and so on, they go all out. They rarely drop the ball versus assumed lesser teams and so on, and that's obviously a trait that's extremely hard to instill in teams that just are so used to winning, because it's easy to get complacent, and SK is one of those very rare gems that never seemingly tend to do so. Obviously, he mentioned the fact that there is a bit of an adjustment period, getting Bolts back into the lineup for a second time and working through all of that. And I guess that's kind of the biggest hope that MVP has, that there's going to be some shaky ground. But again, this time there's not necessarily any new maps coming into the map pool of SK like it was versus Tyloo at DreamHack Masters. So it's a bit of a tougher task, and also SK have gone through the I guess not necessarily the failure, but the disappointment of losing to a team that you probably shouldn't.
No, right, on paper at least.
Yeah.
Now for MVP in this matchup, now would you say they're coming into this one confident in the sense that, okay, great, SK aren't playing on form, they're not playing their the best of their ability that we know they can have, so there's a good chance for upset in that sense? Or would you say that MVP are coming to the event going, oh, there's not enough demos, obviously the major, Bolts wasn't playing, completely different setup, SK were playing like how they used to with Phelps, obviously. Would you say that that's harder now for MVP or easier in that sense?
I would think MVP has, even before the major, obviously they have played with Bolts and so on, so there should be plenty of information for MVP to go off of. So that isn't where the problem should lie. And I think that they would praise themselves lucky the fact that SK aren't in just full-on domination mode as they were towards the latter end of 2016, or I guess mid-latter end of 2017, where they won 3 tournaments in a row. So yeah, no, in that sense, I think it's going to be easier. But I also think they are wise enough to be realistic about how their chances look. Again, it's more for them to be able to test their level, see what kind of strats they've been cooking up, and how they actually work versus one of the most versatile and hard to beat teams. Especially because even if they are to get off to a good start, SK are just renowned for never really giving in on a map. Like, you can be up 15-3. That doesn't really matter to SK. That they're still just one round at a time, and we've seen it time after time that SK just never really let go of a match. It's never an easy defeat in that sense, and that's probably in the back of the heads of MVP as well. But I don't know. I'm hoping that the 3 very experienced players on that MVP side kind of have instilled a lot of knowledge and wisdom to the 2 younger guys there, and they'll be able to at least maintain focus and not necessarily get flustered by the fact that they are going up against probably the best CSGO team of all time.
Yeah, well, the pressure's off now for MVP, right? You know, they lose this game 16-0 and everyone goes, yeah, at the end of the day, they've got no experience versus, you know, the top teams in the world. So, okay, we can kind of move on with that. But, you know, if MVP take this win, it's a huge victory. Again, you know, in this Swiss system, 2 losses and you're out in the best of 3s. So, you know, pressure on SK to perform when they're coming off the back of, you know, not being as consistent recently. But we're into the game anyway. It is going to be the 9th round to kick things off between these 2 teams, starting off on Inferno. And to have a look at the map pool as well, let's talk about Inferno, Cobble, and then the 3rd Mirage. What do you make of this?
I mean, Inferno is seeming to be you know, a very, very hot commodity as of late. Not surprisingly, one of the staple maps of CS just in general, regardless of iteration. And also a map that SK have shown some very evident weaknesses on as well. I don't think I've ever seen a period of time where SK were one of the best teams in the world on Inferno, I'd say. So again, a chance for MVP here. That it's also their map pick, so that might be something they've looked into. SK have played plenty of Inferno games as of late as well. So that's probably something they've concocted into, you know, being a good idea, and I would agree with that as well. Cobblestone, SK, very much like home turf, familiar territory for them. It's where they kind of made their mark, even back when they were Kaboom and so on. We've seen every Brazilian team kind of have their time on that map, and for good reason. They have just an extremely good idea or understanding of how to grab map control as a T, and also, you know, extremely good executes and whatnot as well. Ooh. So I think that's going to be a tough task for the Koreans.
Look at this for MVP. Pistol round ahead. They're just running down mid. SK might not expect the pace. Solo and Jin going to line things up to at least kick off with a couple of kills, and somehow it's working out in the CT's favor. Traded back by Cold Zero. And Glow still pushed down as well. Zeph's going to try and catch Fur in the back lines, but they've spotted him and he's going to fall as well. So a nice attempt from MVP, throwing some aggression, try and catch SK off guard, but they're a bit too ready.
I'm loving that. I'm loving that. That is actually busting out that in the first round of your tournament versus SK. Like, and as you said, it caught them off guard completely. SK had no idea that was about to happen. And initially, the trades are, you know, like, really good for them. Actually, they always get the first end of a trade frag, so they obviously give themselves an opportunity of going a man up. Just unfortunately not able to stabilize perfectly. I think Zeph had multiple opportunities there to actually pick up the guy rotating around from second mid, and if that happens, you know, it's anybody's ball game.
Definitely. And I know we're 1 round in now, but I want to hear your official prediction for the series, obviously across all 3 maps. Are you going for the 2-0?
I am going for the 2-0. As much as I would like to see the Cinderella story come to life, you know, it's hard to go against SK in this kind of a matchup. But really excited. If MVP can make it to double figures in any of these matches, or any of these maps, then that would be really, really fun.
For the first time apartments here for SK in the 2nd round. Not too much of an issue to clean up these CTs. We've got a force buy on the way, but it's not really proving to be too effective. SK only losing a lot of the process, and they're going to get a pretty clean round. So SMGs in play, money made, and rifles kept. So 2-0 on the board for SK, and MVP, they just kind of had to grit their teeth for this 3rd round.
Yeah, it's going to be the full save on the Korean side. And SK just not really making any nonsense about it. Oftentimes we can see teams just setting up for default, which is not necessarily a bad idea versus eco rounds. Obviously you want to kind of test the field, see if you might run into a stack or not. SK, though, with a couple of timely flashes outside of apps, just bombard them and just overpower them with the weaponry and utility they have.
Now, if you're MVP into this round, what can you really show? At the end of the day, it's just USPs. The stack on A, at least with 4 players, is good, but SK are playing for information up on B. So they can at least work this out early, forcing the MVP players off of long and trying to get banana control as well. We're just going to have a pre-rotation off of Solo, but with the smoke going down towards CT spawn, SK just trying to keep MVP guessing here. Far from a commitment, the bomb still dropped down towards lower mid, but SK, they've gained a lot of map control.
I'm kind of liking what MVP are doing here. Initially, Sign not able to actually take out Fur, but does a decent amount of damage. But they're playing for information early on. You can see it's just gradually keeping tabs on where SK are moving forward on the map before actually initiating at all. Unfortunately for them, though, SK are just kind of going by the book, not necessarily taking too many chances, but as MVP doing pretty much the only thing they can do if they want to have any sort of success in this round, and that's stacking up every man towards this A bomb site. So can have a bit of a rough time versus Cold Zero's flying Mac 10, and SK planting the bomb over at B now.
Yeah, I think at this point any kills are really, you know, a bit much for MVP. They've only got USPs to play with, and SK are coming in for the hunt. Glow's going to grab 1, so that's Cold Zero dropped not a rifle. Only SK's in play here for the dying player of SK, but it doesn't really matter. 3-0 on the board. MVP now coming in for their first buy. The question is, do SK confidently stick with the MAC 10 and the UMP? I would bet yes.
Yeah, I would imagine they're brazen enough to do so. Again, it is a bit of a giveaway round, as we often talk about. It's that freebie where you don't necessarily have to invest too heavily. They also know that a lot of the economy, or MVP didn't have a chance to build up too much of an economy. Obviously, limited amount of kills on that 4-spy round that we saw, and obviously just one frag coming in, and the USP round that followed. HSK, though, did manage to control this economy well enough to have an AVP. Armor to boot as well. But as you can see, very, very limited on utility or across the board for MVP, and that could be a massive, massive issue. Only 2 smokes left with 1:30 to go.
And they have got a deep banana smoker as well, so MVP just trying to catch control towards this side of the map. But SK, a different story in mind, out of apartments, Glow will catch 2 frags, and that's a big double kill already. They can retain the man advantage for the time being on MVP's side, and the AWP's actually rotated in through long, so HSK might get an opportunity to strike with a flashbang. It blinds him at the right time. Fallen follows up with a kill as well, and now SK swung it back into the man advantage. The AWP's not picked up, but now MVP have to come in for the retake with limited utility. They do have a kit to work with, but SK now fallen on the AWP, picked up off the body of HSK. I think that's going to be the save.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a safe call, and you can see they're already backing out of that bomb side. Initially, though, looking pretty decently, knowing that they're playing with very limited utility, deciding to take an aggressive stance in banana obviously gets them a lot of information, shuts off a part of the map as well, and could potentially allow them to later on stack up 4 people on that A bomb side. Fortunately for them, though, SK's tempo towards A little bit too fast, and a couple of mistimed flashes, really. Glow does a really good job of getting that double kill from the 2 guys coming through the smoke and apps, but as he falls down to pit, tries to flash over towards quad, and that flash actually catches HSK as he rotates in. If he doesn't get flashed in that scenario, that's probably a guaranteed kill for the Opera of MVP. All of a sudden, we're looking at 2 people who kind of have to put their focus on HSK with it up in on the side, and that's going to allow for Glow to actually come in from the side of pit and potentially pick up more frags. So small margins there going into the favor of SK, but obviously it's off the back of a couple of MVP errors. Promising signs, honestly, even though the score says 0-4. It's definitely MVP. They do know what they're doing.
Yeah, I want to see a few more buy rounds before we really make too much of a judgment. Again, you know, one actual buy where MVP are limited on utility and the like, you know, you can't really take too much away from that. And that's the same story here, because they've only got 2 saved guns, one of them the UMP. Both of them still alive, but SK have banana control, and there's just Solo here. He's got no teammates. SK have thrown in the deep molly to catch him in the corner. He's got no one to come out for help. Doesn't matter. Solo grabs the first kill. That will probably force SK back. They know there's only 1 rifle saved here, so they're probably just going to look to maybe hit this A-bomb site, but confidently still commit. Bolts is up. He'll find Solo. Zeph forced back to the site, but Bolts wants to chase. Molotov going to stop him from doing so, but a smoke towards Coffins will allow him a bit more of a push-up. HSK still waits towards the A site, but with only a Zeus, how much can he really get done?
He's committed, at least. You got to give him that. Oh, well, maybe he can show us some aerial aerobics here. Jumping out of apps maybe with that Zeus, but it's going to be really tough given his position. You can see already given up on that idea. Does find Fur, though. And honestly, with Seth finding bolts on the opposite side of the map as well, that's an AK picked up. All things considered, a pretty decent round from MVP here. Not really sure, even though MVP will have the opportunity to actually buy up in the following round. Not necessary for Seth to throw away that AK either. He does have armor as well. It's a lot of money potentially saved here if he can carry that on into the next round. Yeah,
I mean, they're hitting max loss bonus right now, and some players were sitting on 3,500, so MVP are not going to have struggles to buy up in the future. And as you say, doing damage with that kind of round is really effective from the CT side. So SK, they'll get out alive and ahead 5-0, as you would expect on this T side of Inferno, but MVP will at least have everything they want. They can pull in the AWP, potentially 2 if they really want to go for that, but maybe a bit early.
That might be... Well, it's going to be interesting to see what is in store for MVP. We saw them kicking off the game with extreme aggression. Obviously, if they're feeling as confident to do so in a buy round versus SK, it's a completely different question, but would kind of like to see that might be the case. And here we go, double op setup, so full-on committal here. Might actually be off the back of the fact that Seth has a bit of a bank built up, so they could, in later rounds distribute an additional Colt over to Solo then. But Solo obviously renowned for his opping well, if you want to turn back the clock by a decade or more.
Yeah, I was going to say about 10 years.
Yeah, still cool to see him pick it up. HSK with a forward positioning in mid here. Very easy to get flashed off, but obviously just wants to pick up one player from SK potentially rotating in from second mid. But here we go. Solo with a very untraditional position for an op to have here, playing by sandbags. Just going to take the wide peek now by short wall. And it's going to find Fur as well. Spots more, but here we go. This is the experience we talk about. Knowing that you've put your man or your team up by one player, no need to throw that advantage away. And HSK is going to just build up on that. That's fallen down. And we talked about how important that duel is for MVP. HSK getting the better of him that time.
But if anyone can pull himself out of a 3v5 in this spot, it is going to be SK. So MVP can't be too complacent with this B push. Smoke coming in, not landing. They pushed before it, and Zeph lines up 2 frags. Maybe going in for a third. He swaps positions in the smoke with coldzera, and damage done. Reload found, but coldzera is going to get shot from the site. Solo defends Zeph there in the corner, and MVP, a flawless round on the board. The double AWP has great effect.
Yeah, brilliantly done. 3 of the frags that round coming from Ops. Very well done. A very untraditional setup that we saw from Solo there. Yeah. They put down a short smoke at the top of Banana, and obviously using the sandbags there to kind of peek over it. Very nicely done. Obviously volatile as well. If they get caught up by a flash, that could just spell imminent doom, or instant doom, I should say, for that entire B bomb site. SK though, not really too deterred. 5 rounds in a row. That does leave them with quite a bit of a bank. But Solo once again being aggressive in Banana here. It's very nice to see, showing no respect for the former major champions. Fallen this time though, able to pick up HSK, so not a 5v3 to work with this time around.
Yeah, I like the late mid peek from Fallen. HSK jump spots on the mid peek to make sure there's no AWP posted, and once he doesn't see Fallen, he goes for the fight, and Fallen re-peek, so well timed. SK back into a 4-on-4 and back to the A-bomb site, it seems. No control towards Banana, allows for the aggressive rotation with MVP, but look at this execute from SK. So many nades thrown in. Zayn gonna open up, and Glow's found himself on top of the pit as well. But how much can he really get done? No one's coming out of the apartments. The smoke blocks him from short. He's gonna have to do something incredible because he's essentially alone on this bomb site. Bomb down, but now, with him still in the pit, and SK having not spotted him yet, this creates a good opportunity for the retake. That aggro Banana rotates come through in the form of Solo, and now they can split onto the site. Fallen dead in the apartments. 2 players left up. Glow's cornered coldzera, and he's going to get wall-banged out. Great wall-bang by Solo. So aware of what's happening. And now Bolt has to pull out a 1v3. Found the first 2, but it's not going to happen. MVP, a second round on the board, and while it's costly, it's a second round.
Yeah, a round's a round. Absolutely. Also, you know, that does take a bite into the economy of SK as well. That bank is starting to dwindle as well. And that's just really cool. Really well done, actually, by MVP. Showing poise there to not get too aggressive. You can see how patient Glow was, just sitting on top of that broken wall in pit, potentially peering over towards anyone coming up from pit. We have seen FaZe do a similar strategy where Kerrigan is kind of the late lurker, jumping at a balcony. Because for SK, when they deploy that kind of a strategy, they know that there's probably somebody pit, but it's just kind of a delayed strategy, or they're just kind of delaying the problem of dealing with him. But obviously, if they can get side control, having 3 people, you know, peering towards the guy in pit, that should be a battle you win. But Glow being so patient, not giving them any opportunities to actually be taken out before his teammates actually show up is really well done. And Solo obviously being able to be just near enough to hear Fallen scoping, knowing his exact position as he peers up mid and checks into Boiler. That's really cool, and it's forced SK to take a timeout. Maybe some, you know, old memories are flashing by right now.
Get in there early. Get the timeouts in early before this goes out of control. You never know with these kind of matchups, you know. There's so little pressure on MVP that upsets are always prevalent. Zeph towards a Banana hitting a nade out Fallen. Good damage. 4 HP left on the AWPer.
Well, those double nades really doing work there. And again, MVP just realizing, we're going to have to expend way too much utility here to actually retake control of Banana, so it's fine. We're just going to have to play past it. One issue, though, no smokes left on that bomb. Oh, wait, 1 smoke, I should say. Solo, actually, with both the Molotov and the smoke grenade. But again, I'm liking the approach from MVP here. They're clearly done their homework, and oftentimes when we've seen Asian teams play in the past, it's been, well, very confusing, to say the least, when it comes to their decision-making. Not been the case for MVP so far.
Yeah, communication is also a big thing, right? When we look to Tyloo and them all speaking different languages, etc. But that's not going to apply here to MVP at the very least. Obviously, all being Korean does help.
There's a bit of a benefit. You can see HSK smoked out of position here, taking up a very passive angle, and this could be troublesome for Sign and Glow here. They do have a double setup in pit, though, which can be very, very strong. And if HSK can pick up one of the SK players peering past here, could be all it takes. Fallen still on 4 HP. One man has made it past, and that's for HSK needs to reposition here.
Yeah.
Does so as well.
He could be wrapped from the library. That's the big thing to worry about. So he'll pre-rotate to B, but look at this. Yeah, it's going to be an A play with 25 seconds left. Taco in the apartments with the bomb as well. And while we have Glow back on the balcony with Zine and Pit as well, this is going to be a big ask for MVP. The one benefit they do have is the smoke has just been placed. So 15 seconds left. Make that now 10. MVP might be able to delay this bomb plant enough. It's actually thrown out of the apartments. They need to get the bomb. Is there even time? SK have to get the bomb down right now. No, it's at the back of the site. Great defense from MVP, but massive blunder from SK there.
Oof. SK. Yeah, dropping the ball right there. They had all the control they wanted. Obviously, very well done by MVP to be able to conserve their utility for that long. But man, oh man, we talked about how the solid decision making is what we've seen out of MVP so far. I have to question the rotation from HSK over towards that B-bomb side. I'm not really sure what sold him on that, because there was no presence from SK at all towards B.
I think the big thing was he saw Fur cross, right, so he knows he can be wrapped from library, sitting in that CT position. Yeah. He's either going to be flanked if Fur wants to, or he has to just run away. It's a very awkward spot to be in, but HSK back to mid this time. Fur's going to catch out Zine going for the peak. Flash is well timed, and HSK won't shoot, so he gets shot in the back. SK, they try and go for a little more fast-paced approach, and that is exactly what they need to catch off the Koreans. A 5-on-2 initially, and already MVP separated. And on the other side of the map, that was definitely what SK needed to throw in.
Definitely was, and you can see how caught off HSK is. He still tries to go for that same peak in towards second mid. Really, SK haven't really shown too many instances of where they actually want to take that duel at all. We've seen Fallen do it once with... actually, no, that was just like a mid peak. So 0 instances of SK peering in from the second mid, and that definitely catches them off guard. Definitely could have turned around, obviously, if that secondary player from MVP finds the first frag onto Fur, and that does stem the tide a little bit. HSK also, basically, hitting the field goal kick as they run up mid is also unfortunate.
Zeph going for the Doja there.
Cheeky. Not going to pan out, though. No. It's unfortunate as well, because obviously SK, they lost that previous round with running out of time, didn't get a bomb plant, so basically they were broke at that point. The only reason they were able to buy up is because so many players survived at that point. But we could have been looking at an MVP actually forcing SK to an eco and subsequently, 2 more rounds.
Yeah, I mean, if SK didn't keep 5 alive in that previous round, then this could have been very, very scary, of course, with MVP having the chance, because 3 in a row, they've got money, they've got the AWP back in play. Zine somewhat limited for weaponry on an MP9, but at least we have that up. That could definitely be a factor to take into account. SK have hit Banana fast, though, this time, again, looking to go for a quick approach to a bomb site. It worked out in the previous.
And MVP not willing to take that fight. Obviously, don't have the same amount of utility as SK does, but they have boosted up towards that B-bomb. You can see Seth, who has been, naded to bits and pieces, taking up that mantle. And, 3-man rotation here. We're at that B-bomb side. It's HSK with that off. And I'm more of a fan of this kind of a rotation, because now there's actually been presence made by SK towards the banana area. If anything, I think HSK maybe would like to play towards the coil area to get potentially an early pick before SK actually execute onto the site, and that would also allow MVP to actually rotate 1 man off if SK goes quiet. They seem to want to commit here. 2 players still towards A, though, which is interesting, and there we go. HSK finds the first frag onto Taco. I don't think the bomb has been spotted, though.
No, they could easily back off here and go back towards A, especially if Zine goes down here. If SK get a pick, surely they fully rotate. So this MP9 needs to have effect, and it needs to start now. He spots Fur, pre-fire comes in, but Fur's too quick. Alive on 13 HP, SK look to maybe hit this A bomb site now, because it's only Glow towards the back of the pit. We've seen him do great work before, and again, SK are on low time. This has come back to haunt them in previous rounds, so Glow, he just needs to stay alive and try and deny this bomb plant. 20 seconds left. Are SK going to work out exactly where he is? They don't have a Molotov for the pit. He spots someone on the peak, and he sees the bomb go to the site, but he can't stop it from going down. They're trying to chase him, and Fur finds a shot with the AWP, so SK bomb down, and again, 10 seconds left, but they'll finally win the round, it seems.
And honestly, I'm kind of on board with the decision-making from MVP there as well. Stacking up, just committing to having 3 players on that B-bomb side, that does set them up in a situation where they can actually hold on to these guns going into the next round. Zeph, in a situation where potentially he can actually drop 1 Colt over to one of his teammates as well, and they could get a similar buy. Obviously, utility is going to be a bit of an issue, but I think this is the better way of going about it. Instead of having late rotations, not necessarily being able to help out Glow necessarily, who's kind of stuck in pit to his own devices. So long-term wise, this is the right choice from MVP.
Well, SK up to 7 rounds on their T side, so aside from a couple of blunders, they're still looking good coming into this first map. It is, of course, MVP's pick as well, so that's something you have to take into account.
And you could just imagine if there's anybody else than Zine in that arch area. Like if anyone with a Colt in that situation, obviously Fur goes down instead of being on 13 HP, because that was what headshot and about 4 other body shots or something going into Fur, and he survived on 13 HP. And you know, that could swing the tide of the round completely. Again, it stems the push from SK's side, allows for a rotation to come in time, and also allows for Glow to have more room to actually work around that pit area.
And they only got the bomb down with 10 seconds left as well. Yep. So say we factor in another few seconds of that kill of Fur going the way of MVP, and boom, yeah, you're right. The round's definitely won by MVP at that point. SK need to watch out, because that's one of the things, right? If they are using this utility early and going for these early B executes, they need to make sure they save a Molotov for pick. Multiple rounds, Glow has stayed alive in there far too long.
Yep.
And it's come back to haunt them once, and I'm sure it will again.
He's just posted up his tent there, pretty much, refusing to move. But yeah, MVP showing promise here, even though the scoreline might necessarily tell that. I'm actually pretty positively surprised by what we've seen from the South Koreans so far. Again, they do opt to go for that buy, since Zef did drop off one weapon. This time it's going to be Glow, though, with the MP9 not signing. I think that's a fair decision. Ooh,
Flash, that's actually going to completely catch Zef off guard. He gets one before he goes down, but with Solo dropping as well, SK, they could burst this B bomb site. They actually do slow down. This allows for a rotation of MVP, but SK is still going to be here before the CTs do. They'll start to wrap the backside of the ruins, but the smoke's going down. SK have full control over the bomb site. 3v3 and no utility left for MVP. Zion's going to be flashed on through potentially. He sits on the edge of the smoke, but really can't find an angle. The wallbang puts coldzera down to 14, but he'll just survive, and he's still lethal even with 10 health. Third rotation only just coming in. What's happening for Glow? This has taken far too long. Maybe expecting SK to have a bit of presence on the other side of the map, but no. All 3 of these Ts sat in the bomb site. And MVP, smoke up. That'll be good for at least the post plan, actually. It catches off anyone pushed down Banana, so Fallen's got to walk forward on the other side of it. coldzera still holding the crossfire, but Fur's already kicked things off, so this is going to be a very difficult retake for MVP, trying to isolate the kills. Glow will, but he won't check the right corner. Still somehow catches Fallen. coldzera's on the wrong side as well, but HSK's run out of time. Pistol out, gets the frag, but he doesn't get the round.
Still, though, they do remarkable work there with the MP9 on Glow, compared to what I expected them to do there. A bit unfortunate that Solo gets taken out through the boxes there out in Bananas to try to go for the double peek. And obviously, when you lose control over the B bomb site that quickly, which is one of the downsides of playing aggressively, obviously, it's really tough for MVP to set up any sort of retake, especially with their economic state, really. Limited utility that doesn't allow really for you to have solid retakes. You saw the one flash that they threw in didn't really do a whole lot. So
I did like that smoke, though. You don't see that too commonly on the retake from Ruins. It completely cuts off SK from having any Banana presence, and when you have a 3-man CT rotation, that's perfect.
Oh, HSK, very aggressive. I'm liking this. No, doesn't manage to connect the shot, but still, definitely a valiant effort and a good idea.
When you have one AWP, of course, you're going to need to start things off with the pick, because everyone else on pistols and everyone else so limited here. No one on armor. SK going to burst up towards the A side. Zion will kick off with one. 1-for-1's good when you only have pistols, but instead it's traded back in the favor of SK. HSK caught out of position. Bolt's going to tag him down. He's also being wrapped from coldzera up on the long side, but the nade, that will seal the deal. This round, again, looks to be over.
Yeah. Again, starts off pretty decently for MVP there. Glow finding the pick onto Taco and Apps, and then Sign following up. It's the fact that HSK is not able to get around Arch Corner in time to actually help out any of his teammates before they fall. That becomes the downfall of MVP. Definitely making SK work here. No doubt about that. And Solo, well, didn't come into the round with an AK, but has managed to find Tacos. If he's able to hold on to that going into the next round, it would be a pretty gigantic plus. Also has a Molotov and a flashbang to couple with that AK and ZZ. No interest from SK in hunting as of right now.
Still pretty good, though, on the T side. 9 rounds.
Yeah.
Money being built for SK. They're keeping plenty of players alive in these rounds that they're winning. So it started off a bit dangerous, a bit back and forth, obviously, but we've yet to see MVP get 1 out of the last 6, I think it is. So SK starting to solidify their place into this map, flex their muscles maybe. MVP are back on the buy. They do have only one kit though, that's something to take into account. Good utility on everyone else apart from Glow though, so this is actually a real full buy for MVP. The next opportunity to get around on the board as we're entering the latter stage of the half. If they want to have any chance to actually pick up this map, they're going to need one or two more.
Yeah, this is very true. Again, quick push up towards middle here from SK. This caught MVP rather off guard last time around.
Oh, Sign.
Aim punch coming into play there a little bit. Down he goes. That's arch completely open, and obviously the entryway towards B through spawn as well.
And the Molotov going down to pit. SK
They're starting to learn.
Not going to make the same mistakes as earlier, it seems. Glow sits there, but Bolts has already caught an aggressive rotation down Banana, so MVP, they've given up another frag. SK could even wrap this B site if they want, but there's no need. Cold Zero, entry onto Glow and pit. Needs to check below him. He's actually standing on the head of his opponent, but he'll get him anyway. HSK dropping the AWP. And Zeph now in a 1v4. I don't think this one's doable, to be honest, Vendetta.
No, it's definitely not. No kit either. And again, it's going to be a situation where MVP has to hope that he's able to hold on to the weapon, but Fur has been lurking around in CT spawn the entire time. He's approaching. Jaws team queued, and Zeph going to win that duel. But obviously it gives away his position as well. Nobody from SK really nearby, though, as of right now. Cold Zero coming in towards Banana. We'll be able to close it out. So 10 rounds on the board for SK. But it's not necessarily just a given that SK are picking up these rounds, which is kind of the positive to take out of this for MVP. Obviously, if this ends up being a 16-3, it's not necessarily going to look too pretty on the scoreboard, but they've definitely had their chances here. But again, that quick tempo from SK. Sign not really able to get going here, and we talked about him in the pre-match, how he's going to be a vital part of this MVP team if they're going to have a shot at it. And he's having a real rough go of it compared to what he has in the past. Solo gets tagged down as well to 15 HP, so probably not going to be able to have an aggressive stance with that op as well.
I do like this buy though from MVP. They had them run up the rifles, but they opted to go for mainly SMGs so they could get that utility. Obviously so important to CT side Inferno. While HSK won't buy up nades, it's one of the few rifles they actually have to play with. He's already going to get taken down on Long Fur, opening up with Taco alongside him, and with Solo getting tagged earlier nades up towards top of Banana. This could be dangerous, but now they've pulled this back. What's happened here?
Sign with a bit of a flank from CPL there to find Fallen unaware in mid. And that's going to allow MVP to have the man advantage, at least. Low HP though on Solo. Still not going to be able to delay any sort of plans though. Only 2 players left and 1 flashbang for SK to work with in this retake. No Molotovs unfortunately for MVP, but they do have a nade, 3 flashes and a smoke here, so definite opportunity.
And look how passive SK are playing. MVP are given all this control towards mid. They can push, towards CT. They can push up towards Banana, make sure everything's clear. They've got to check the site now. Now players start to push it. Bolt spraying, but he can't connect it. Glow will find the frag. Taco catches a player off guard watching Banana, but he's got 2 more to get. Time is ticking away. There's the second. No way Taco will get this. Oh, he won't. Zyme finds it, but is there time?
Oh, I think there just barely isn't.
No, I think he's just got it. There we go.
Well, squeaky bump time for MVP, but they do manage to bring it back. That's a 4th round on the board. Surprised we didn't get to see all of the utility that MVP actually had in that scenario. They barely used any of it.
Yeah.
That nade, if that goes into the corner of either dark corner or new boxes, then that would have done significant damage to both Bolts and Taco. Would have made it a tiny bit easier. Sign, maybe nerves getting to him, but obviously that's a pretty easy frag he should be getting almost immediately after Glow gets taken out from behind new boxes. But in the end, it's the end result that matters. And they do pick up a round. Still, though, the buy isn't too pretty looking at it. MP9 in play for HSK, UMPs, and FAMASs as well. Solo gets forced back from Banana initially. Molotov going down here. Really adamant about fighting back and not giving SK free control of Banana for right now.
But SK diving through the smoke once again. This worked previously, but MVP posted a little more passive on this side of the map. Going to attempt with the AWP. Got to watch out because now Fallen's climbing on top of the wood as well, and he's posted pretty well. Solo just dodging that shot.
That's ballsy from Solo right there. Fallen doesn't miss too many of those actually. Well, seems like the Banana battle has seceded for now, and SK shift their focus towards his A-bomb site. Passive setup from MVP this time. not really focusing too much on Arch. You can see the FOB flash coming out there. Sign just making sure, keeping tabs. SK have been very adamant about wanting to wrap whenever they've approached that A bomb site. So obviously that's in the back of the head of the Korean players. For now though, still some utility left here. Time is starting to dwindle down.
And this utility usage is really good as well. Molly goes out right as the T's throw. There's the balcony. MVP are forced off, but 27 seconds left. We've got crossfires set up from pit site. We've got 2 players on the site as well. This could be good here for the MVP side. HSK kicking things off. Glow does try to come in, but HSK 3 kills with the MP9 of all the guns to find frags. He gets everything. Taco's in the pit now, swapped positions with Glow. They've got to clear up both spots on the site, and they won't expect the corner. Zion, he just thinks, goes for the kill. One more left to find. Taco's got no time, and that is MVP picking up the fifth round of the half, sorry. Bit messy.
A bit messy, but man, those MP9s are doing work for MVP right now. They just get picking up 3 frags. But that's a really cool setup as well. Normally, you would expect one person to be in that corner. Obviously, HSK probably shouldn't be able to get 3 frags out of it, but even then, you have Cyan as a bit of a backup or plan B. And obviously that pans out really nicely.
Yeah, I would say don't bait like that in your matchmaking games, but when you have
you're
a
not
team
going to make friends like that way, for sure.
But when you at least plan around it, I mean, that's great, right? Cold Zero had no idea there was a player behind him. No peeking. As HSK is mowing down 3 players, Zion's just holding, playing passive, making sure that he is completely unsuspected when SK hit the site.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And you can see that that's something they've thought through as well, because you could see HSK kind of crossing over from quad when the smoke goes down to get into that positioning. So, yeah, MVP definitely have put in work, and that's a dink onto Solo, down to 2 HP right off the bat, and he's got a ton of utility as well.
Yeah, you've got to be careful there if you're taking that fight mid. Nades do go up, forcing Fallen back off the angle, and Zion gets a kill on A. That may force a rotation, or at least keep bolts on this side of the map for the time being. But with SK running double long, they can easily get back into this B site. MVP are going to need picks instantly. Fallen, flash towards CT, pushes in through the smoke, but he won't find it. Gets information, but bomb yet to be spotted. Fur and Fallen both picking up a frag each. Cold Zero takes one down in mid, and MVP, they've got the nades, but they're falling apart here in this pistol round. Only Solo left, and I think SK are going to have an easy job of clearing him up.
Yeah, well, he does find Fallen as a bit of a parting gift, but just very well done by SK there. Individual skill shining through. Fallen also picking up that 1 frag as he re-enters through the smoke. And, well, you might question whether or not MVP should have stayed true to their initial plan of actually going towards B. Once Sign finds that pick, maybe it's, a better idea to let Sign continue on his mission towards that A bomb site, see how many people have actually rotated over, what kind of information he can gain from his team before they actually execute. But again, it is a bit of a learning experience for these guys.
Look at this buy from SK as well. So confident. Of course, they are 11-5 up. But 4 SMGs in play here, looking to copy the strats of MVP with these MP9s. It's full Glocks here for the T side, and after not getting the bomb down, full Glocks, this isn't the most common strategy, I gotta say.
No, it definitely isn't, and it's unfortunate for them seeing how SK have so many SMGs, so they're going to be able to stack up a ton of cash here potentially.
Off finds 2, he's gonna shut them down with the M4. That's now picked up as well, so despite their lack of armor, still a dangerous gun to be up against these SMGs. Although Taco around in the corner tries to get for them initially. Glow does find 1, but yeah, here comes the cleanup crew. This should be fine for SK. Only 4 HP left for the final player of MVP. And now this makes me question, with them full Glock round in this round, do they buy up next? Or are they just trying to get extra utility? Because the thing is, on T side, you can still get a full buy on the 4th round without having to full eco the 2nd.
Exactly, and I'm expecting them to buy up in this kind of a scenario, seeing how they've done that. Which I'm not really sure I'm too big of a fan of, but then again, we have to consider the fact that SK did just invest heavily into SMGs. They're not going to upgrade in this round, most likely. They also lost the 1 Colt that they had on Fur, so that's going to be obviously some money that they need to reinvest into, even though they picked it up eventually. But yeah, it could be really interesting. I think they might be. Yeah, they forced. But this is kind of a cool buy. This is something we've seen G2 do more of. Putting those Galils into use, definitely not a bad weapon. I also have a little bit of utility to work with here. 2 Molotovs, 3 smokes. So enough for an execute towards any of the bomb sites. Now it's just a matter of figuring out what they want to do.
You can see SK's read this perfectly, though. They know exactly what's about to come. They've got 3 M4s in play after an SMG round. This should be the full eco, so SK know completely what is up for MVP. That's the only issue. For them to run this strat, they have to full Glock the second round, and SK see the full Glock, and they go, okay, they're going to force third.
Yeah, and that's very heads up. Some teams probably let greed get the better of them in those scenarios and just stick with SMGs, and want to see how that plays out. But SK not letting that happen. Trying to get a little bit lucky there. Let's go out. Ooh, that's a perfect flash. Fallen sets up for success there. Finds HSK and Glow, and that puts him on 3 total for this round so far. And while Sign does find Coldzera and Arch, still tons of work to be done. Bomb still dropped in Banana. Well, this is a bit of a hole MVP have dug themselves into.
Yeah, and using that smoke to just get the bomb as well. They don't have much map control to work with. Zine tries to get up towards Long, but he gets shut down from bolts. And Zeph, he's got to get that lost bonus money, so he's probably just going to go for this. Push up towards the A site, see if he can get an opening pick. But with SK running a 2-2 setup and having tradable positions from both sides of the map, this isn't realistic. 13 seconds left. Taco's going to hit the footsteps, and that'll be all they need. Flash out, Zeph avoids it, but he'll also not spot anyone on the site. Fake command, Taco gets rid of him. So SK 13-5. This is shaping out to be the game we kind of expected now, isn't it?
It is. And, well, if you do that kind of a buy from the side of MVP, you kind of need to have a more set plan of what you want to do, because you can't fight for map control. That's one of the things that's just completely out of the window, because you have so limited utility. Those 2 Molotovs you have, those are going to have to use to clear out spots on the actual site. The 3 smokes you have as well. So you can't necessarily go into that round expecting to fight for banana control, because SK are definitely going to have more utility than you to work with. So that's something that they will have to look into if they want to continue doing buys like this. But, you know, it's definitely a worthwhile idea to throw out there. Now, we're just seeing pistols, P250s and ZZs being picked up. We'll set up in the new corner, gets back up from Coldzera. That's a favorable trade for SK. Goes down as well, though, so 2 weapons picked up here for MVP in a 3v3 situation. No armor, though.
Oh, look at this as well. SK have left B. Fur's going to realize the error of his ways, so he backs off to the site, but the only player with utility here, Fur is the perfect man for the B-bomb site. The choke point, will they get past before the Molotov's down? That's a yes. Fur's wrapped the back of the coffin, so he'll hear this. So he's going to try and push him. He'll get taken down. Nade in for Fur. Just trying to chip away at these low HSK players. Lack of armor on these players. HSK tagged. Zine dropped. And now the pistol out for Fur. Just going to hunt this third kill. HSK has to force a 1-on-2. This is not going to happen. SK 14 rounds. But a bomb plant and 2 kills from pretty much a full eco from MVP. I mean, it's, again, we're grabbing at straws here, but at least it's something.
Yeah, there are positives out of it, for sure. A bit of an over-rotation allows for the bomb plant to happen for MVP, though, so a bit of a mistake on the end of SK. But they do have a pretty big cushion to play off of here, so they're probably not going to be too worried about that. And I think you can tell that Sign is not necessarily too comfortable with the op in hand there. We saw HSK being the one with the rifle in that scenario. Kind of jumped out just in full speed, trying to side strafe for as they did a double peek there, and that didn't quite pan out. But it could have been a very interesting round, obviously, if they're able to trade off for Solo in that situation, especially because Solo was the one without any weapons.
Oh, SK straight into this round, aggressive in mid. They want to try and catch MVP off guard. They will. Already trades coming through, but they're in the favor of the CT side. Zine needs to find this kill, and he does, but it's too little, too late. A 1v2 now. Tackle volley out, and Zine's just going to get caught in the flame. So SK, 15 rounds to 5, MVP. Their one opportunity back into the map, Vendetta, and SK rush mid.
Yeah, that's just the knife in the back, really, or no, well, not back necessarily. It was right to their face. But, you know, similar approach as to what MVP tried to start off the game with in their pistol round. But there we see how it's meant to go. SK just completely catching MVP off guard. Well done, and that's obviously super frustrating to play versus. When you play versus teams who are, again, assumed to be quite a bit better than you, and they play with no respect. They don't allow you to actually set up for your defaults and all the kinds of things that you have planned, and it's really tough to, on the fly, come up with a good solution as to how you're going to deal with it.
And luckily they have a buy here, but no AWP, limited nades, no Molotovs left, just 10 seconds into the round, so MVP slightly limited here, looking for some form of mid-take. They want to execute quickly, but SK respond with Molotovs to slow down this push. Still, the smokes will outlast them, so they can continue to rush after those flames expire. And Bolts, he's going to hold close to the corner. They're spraying desperately, but it actually works out for MVP. However, look at the health left. 3 players on 20 HP, and the Molotov from Taco got to do great work to glow. Solo tries to push up short, but Cold Zero is too patient. 1 kill from him, and 1 more spotted in the apartment to get rid of him easily. Maybe even a 3rd, but it's traded back for HSK, who's caught in the open. Fallen will finish off that map, and SK 16-5 on the map pick of MVP. Confident, very confident.
Very confident indeed. But, you know, as I kind of was alluding to, even though it's a 16-5 victory, it obviously it's comfortable for SK, but I think it could have been a little bit more interesting if we saw that scenario, the late round scenario with Sign and Arch there with the MP9 in the first half, you know, right after having a round where SK basically loses out on time, with money being really on the brink of, you know, extinction, if you could put it that way.
Yeah.
That definitely could have given them an additional boost and solidified them with a bit of a better CT side, obviously, and more rounds to play around with.
Yeah, that just raises the question of, oh yeah, maybe they'll get 7 rounds or something. But realistically, SK looked so much better in this map than
they did.
We've seen them play against Asian teams before.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that, and it's very apparent that there is quite a skill gap in terms of these two teams, but. They still have another map to go into. Obviously, this was MVP's map pick, so that leaves you a little bit worried going into Cobblestone. But again, this is kind of going according to plan for SK. They're not really stressing out too much. But we'll give credit where credit is due to MVP. They definitely had like some setups and some ideas that they wanted to execute, and they did so as well. And it's just a matter of being able to step up individually to the same level of SK, which is again no easy task, but they at least have a well thought through game plan.
Definitely. And now moving to Cobblestone, I think it'll be a little more interesting. I do hope we see MVP on that T side, because we didn't really get a whole lot of it in this map, obviously. And as you say, SK not letting them set up. Cobble is a map where it's far easier to set up on the T side. You're not going to have as much early round aggression from SK. Maybe you'll have an AWP pick on mid or boost in drop, but realistically, you don't have a lot of B long rushes from SK on the CT side in your standard match anyway. So if MVP are prepared coming into Cobblestone, if they have, executes up their sleeve, they're going to get a chance to show them off. They're going to get a chance to at least set up on this T side. So that could be, maybe the chance for them to take away some rounds. Again, sitting with the 2-0 prediction from you, I'm definitely agreeing with that now. That's looking far more solidified. But hey, MVP are the biggest underdogs coming into this event, and SK are still, I'd say regarded as the best team in the world. Yeah,
I'd definitely agree with that assessment. And it's an uphill battle for MVP.
Definitely, yeah.
And the one thing you mentioned, aggression. There's a limit to how much you can have of it on the CT side from any team really. But Fur is kind of a bit of a enigma in that sense, or a bit of an anomaly, I guess. To that, he does love his smoke pushes through those middle doors and that kind of thing, and that's definitely something that can catch a team like MVP off guard. So that's something to look out for as well. We'll see how much confidence, I guess, is instilled with the SK squad, if they want to just continue on with that rampant aggression or not.
And now we've got the replays from the previous map. If you did miss any of the rounds, wasn't a huge amount of crazy rounds. We saw some nice ones from MVP on the start of the CT side, but their T side pretty unaffected, pretty standard from SK. They just kind of ran over it. So, I mean, it's exactly what you'd expect on Inferno, even from a team that, as you said before the map, SK aren't known for being the best Inferno team in the world, but this is a matchup where they're obviously going to be pretty confident, and they definitely showed it.
Yeah, no, definitely did, and outside of a couple of rounds from MVP in terms of HSK 3-kill with the MP9 and so on, wasn't necessarily too many highlight moments from their end, but SK they had multiple opportunities to kind of have their way with them, and for having a really solid game, and that's good to see, because he's been probably the SK player to kind of have fallen off a bit, the last maybe month and a half, 2 months. Especially considering the Boston Major and Summit, where you had kind of woeful experience.
Yeah, definitely. Well, either way, Cobblestone is up next, so we will be going for a short break. After that, you get to witness a second map of MVP, see if they can come back and bring this to Mirage. So we'll see you very shortly.
LootBet, online esports betting. Dota, CSGO, Overwatch, Hearthstone, and many more. Bet on tournament matches or in-game events while viewing them live. Deposit using money, bitcoins, or even skins. Join LootBet now. Use the code you see here when you deposit and grab your bonus.
Don't know how to build a team from scratch or find good teammates? DreamTeam.gg, the ultimate team building platform. Find and connect with new players, coaches and teams. Manage and monetize your team. Get on fast track to advance from novice to amateur and, if desired, to professional gamer. Join DreamTeam.gg today.
It's the quick scope! This is unreal! Anything is possible! Anything is possible! Yuzilo is a monster, Tom!